Thank you for that brilliant introduction, and I hope I can serve as a suitable next in sequence. Thank you all for joining us today, and we're greatly honored by everybody's attendance here. I want to thank each and every one of those who had the vision to start laying the bricks long before I became involved in this project, because they really had the foresight. Of course, special thanks to the rabbis and rebbitzins who populate this, who lead this, who bring this space to life. Very importantly, to the students, which is really what it's all about at the end of the day. And as I said, hopefully my grandson can be class of 42, and by then we'll be in the next building, and the next building, and the next building. And we want to thank President Mike for joining us today. It's much appreciated, and we're greatly honored. And we're also so pleased, I think I speak for all of us, with the leadership that you have exhibited since your ascension to the presidency, and the significant difference you have made, and the recognition of the recent agreements and such, which are not only designed to protect Jews, but to protect everybody, and to protect free speech, which really underlies all of the discussion, and all, sadly, the hate and the other things that occurred here and elsewhere. And it's just that we need to continue amongst our university populations to enhance and encourage open, honest, and civil debate. Hopefully, one day, everybody will agree with my view of the politics of the world. But in the absence thereof, I'm totally satisfied with people who respect what we do and respectfully disagree. And I think that's the history and the lifeblood, and in fact, the key for the university. It's been my honor and my blessing that Hashem granted me such a wonderful wife and such a wonderful family that would support me in one of my lifetime dreams, which was to one day be able to provide some type of recognition of my grandfather, with whom I grew up and who in many ways was my de facto father. We grew up under very modest means, and I guess through hard work and a little of Hashem's guidance, we've been able to be somewhat successful. And of course, our biggest goal at this point in time is to give back. Ironically, when I was very little, I had a job in an apartment building working up the street from me starting in 4th grade. And I remember thinking in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, nothing I want to do more than never see any real estate and never see any apartments. And of course, Hashem, as they say, man plans and God laughs. And Hashem obviously was teaching me in 4th grade what I was going to do later. And now I'm very blessed to be in apartments, which was not my goal. That said, a few brief words, if you don't mind, about Morris Esco, my grandfather. He grew up literally with nothing, 6th floor walk up in Brooklyn. I was just sharing with Professor Hoffman, he went to Stuyvesant High School, where the professor also went. I think my grandfather was class of 1911 or 12. And he was very blessed to find out about the Cornell College of Agriculture, which for those of modest means, being a state school at that time, he was able to get an education, of course, first, not only in his family, but I suspect first of many who were able to get an education here at Cornell. And of course, at that time, while it was open to Jews, there was just a handful. He was not allowed to live on campus, despite the long-standing mantra of any man, any study. Apparently, it didn't include room and board. So he was lucky enough that a professor took, I don't want to say pity, but took a liking to him and let him live in his attic in exchange for being his houseboy for the 4 years he was here. That said, he always spoke with pride about his education here at Cornell, what it meant to him. And at that time, he also won he was a great orator and a wonderful speaker. And he won the Woodford Award here in his senior year, which was at that time, kind of like winning the Super Bowl, because oratory was considered a great art back in those days, and hopefully one day will be again. And then he went to serve in World War I, where interestingly, while they didn't have Jewish chaplains, he was appointed the Jewish welfare officer, which I guess was the Jewish equivalent of being a chaplain, and he served in World War I. But when he was here at Cornell, obviously he had both positive and negative experiences, and he wrote a very interesting article that I think some of the Jewish studies students may have shared in, and was called The Jewish Student at the University. And it was an essay about his experience here at Cornell during his time there. And that won a national award. It was published in what was then the Jewish magazine of record, known as the Menorah Journal. And what he talked about at great length and in a very erudite manner was the different types of Jews. And that is still true today, and also the different types of Jewish experience. And some of the abuses that he experienced in 1915, here 110 years later, reared their ugly head again, sadly. But hopefully that those situations are few and far between. That said, the anti-Semitism, we're not surprised by it. It's only 3,000 years. One day someone will figure it out. But we are still have to be the light onto the nations, and that's our goal. My grandfather observed at that time, he said, there's different kinds of Jews. There's the Jews who try and hide their Judaism. There are Jews who try and assimilate, and there are Jews who remain strongly and proudly Jewish. And he concluded 110 years ago that the only Jews who did not experience the same discrimination were those who were strong and proudly Jewish. And as he observed then, and as the Rebbe has continued to observe in his writings, you can be an assimilationist, and you're still not going to be liked anymore, though you may fool yourself. You can hide your Judaism, and you won't be liked anymore, and frankly, it's a tragedy. But most importantly, you can be a strong and proud Jew and show yourself in your finest colors and in your strongest character. And as has been observed, they may not like you more, but they will certainly respect you more. And frankly, that's what we ask for, that's what we want, and I believe that is returning here to Cornell thanks to our leadership. So my grandfather became, as Rabbi mentioned earlier in his conversation, they felt that a path to Jewish education was through Jewish camping. That's what they made their career paths, my grandfather and my grandmother. And in 1923, went out in the woods in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania and built a kosher kitchen and built a bunch of tents and started recruiting Jewish campers. And they did that for over 50 years with thousands of campers who followed in their tradition. So, and if you can imagine, a couple of young Jewish teachers going out in the mountains, their first year, yes, the Ku Klux Klan burned a cross on their property, but they persevered and did what they needed to do. And as I'm sure all of you know who have followed it, the Rebbe also strongly endorsed camping for Jewish students as a place to get away from their cities and get away and focus on Judaism. So I'm very proud to have had such forebears. I'm very proud to be here today, and honored and pleased to be able to dedicate this to my grandfather. But most importantly, it's for the students here, and I want to make sure that Abad is bigger, better, and stronger when Jonah comes in 2042. So thank you all for being here, and enjoy.